Well, hello everyone. This is your host YK Omamori here, and today, well, we're going to see a match of Steel Division 2. That was the match between Avalser using the first DFL in right side with red, using a balanced income, and molody, which is Shikon in the monthly tournament. This match is in the monthly tournament right there. Shikon is using the Kampfgruppe von Tetor on the left hand side in blue, also with balanced income. So, well, for the first few minutes, we already see no scout planes. That is not really the norm of the current Steel Division 2. However, there are already some early exchange of things going on here. Not really much. ATs are coming in. The M8s were being forced to spread out. And the DFL is still pretty much a popular division as it is. A lot of M8s, a lot of light armor, and also half-track, with some more high-quality infantry that is coming in. That's going to be packed a lot of punch inside the mid-close area in this map of Kostritsa. Right now, we're seeing a few more things coming up and down. 60mm French infantry mortar right now is firing at the edge of the forest in the central part of area. That was a Legionnaire being, well, pretty much suppressed, half of it, but most likely intact. AMMA becomes the first casualty against the Pak 36 that is firing the heat shell, which usually had a really low accuracy, but with triple veterancy right there, plus the SS Ausbildung building in, that is going to be a lack. That is going to be pretty much pack up a punch out there. Down the south, the Avalser is deploying that 105mm to firing at the MG42, but well, pretty much now gonna outright kill it in the end. First few planes coming in, the SG219A0 already taken down the off-map plane, and also the Spitfire that comes in. That's going to be a huge exchange for Melody or Shikon and in the Teto, the 219, with the multiple NG151 is going to have a huge hit when you try to go head-on with this plane. And if you're not careful with that Spitfire and the off-map plane, this is going to be the one-time usage of the 105mm off-map. So back into the front, Mortier 60mm mortar firing at the Panzerschreck and SS Junker. That is going to be taken out by the shocks in the end, but SS Junker still finds a chance to hold back, while the Panzerschreck did not. Commandant Legion is taking a few hits from the French 60mm mortar. But up in the north, Recon M383R AFM is taking quite a field trip against the SS Flak inside. There's no AT around there, so, well, this time there comes the Flammenpanzer B2 for a coverage. SS Pioneer builds in, but more shocks are pushing further and further inside with the SS Pioneer. Originally taking place in the town, being taken off and forced to fall back in the end. The SS Pioneer, one more on the back, trying to fire the slightly more effective MG against the shocks, against a slightly more damaged M1 carbine in the end. One more round of the 60mm mortar, forcing Avalser to order the shots to fall back. One more squad of shots are trying to move in with the Commandant Legion inside. Down south though, we're shifting our eyes to the south. The Legionnaire is trying to move in, with some more or less a few units were being taken out by the MG, so the firepower of Legionnaire, or maybe some firepower from the N3 Howitzer. Maybe not this is the first shot that's being fired, but it's already been pinned down by the SSMG in the end. N383RFM trying to cover up the open ground between the two forests. Right, they're forcing the SS Pioneer and SS Junker to fall back, and the SSMG taking out the 105mm Howitzer with the help of the 60mm mortar. Shifting things down to the south though, M383 RFM, the recon steward, has successfully locking down the route and taking out one truck, and another one of SS Junker was forced to fall off. and the Panzerschreck and SS Junker were falling back by the shocks. However, there is not a lot of realistic improvements of situation for the French. However, right now, Commandant Legionnaire is coming in for the extra veterancy. But, well, as there is essentially no AT around here, this will be a pretty easy push for the French infantry against the German down the south. But when will the order come is one part of the key that Avalser needs to take control of. Back to the northern side, shots in the Commandant Legion, forcing the one last SS Pioneer in this part of the forest. But that Pioneer also throw the TNT and taking out the Commandant Legionnaire, and well, the extra veterancy are not anymore, and there's only like 9 shocks separated by 3 squads out there. This is going to be quite a hard time as there's no reinforcement comes in, but luckily there's already a squad of the Legionnaire and another squad of BIMP trying to move in right there inside to the town, pushing in slowly and surely. On the central side, the F3A3 and the Short are being taken out by the Pak-36, again by Icho in the end, and that is going to be taken out by BIMP, the A squad Tranab. Well, in the end, the one last French infantry are being taken out on this forest, and forcing that flag to be back in, forcing that flag into the German control in the end. One more recon 3A3 merging in. There's already a buffers inside of the town, and Commandant Legion and BIMP as the extended reinforcement around the area. With the recon's help, there are a few line of sight for the 105mm howitzer firing at the SS Baca. 1 infantry left inside the squad. With the 45mm firing at the M3 Steward, the recon one in the end. That does, well, at least there is 1 penetration that we've seen. And a huge part of the force are being taken out by the French infantry right there. 2 squad of SS Junker are trying to guard it in the end. But be aware that these SS Junker also had 2 FG-42 and 2 MG-42s in the end that will be pretty much devastate in the mid-long range, especially around 500 to 600 meter range. This is probably the essential ones. And within the 500 meter range, there's also the G-43 pumping out more damage. So the French should be really careful about their advancement. Without any further armor attack, this will be quite of an issue in the end. B2 inside the position right now, already taking out the N3 Sure that's trying to move into the back line in the end. 1 more Flammenpanzer inside that is going to clear out most of the light armor, if that's not being taken out by more 37mm gun in the end. With the Legionnaires doing a pretty decent job against the SS Junker, which is only firing its MG-42 this time. Now we can see a few things out there. The Avalser trying to take control of part of the town, but not really onto taking the flag. And Molody has already taken 1 flag off Avalser down in the central part, despite it's not really secured in the end. The SS Pioneer and the SS Junker are trying and help the SS Pioneer in the front, taking that flag, but ultimately the SS had to fall back with the firepower of BIMP and the mortar 60mm, mortier 60mm right there, and the force is pretty much firmly displayed inside it, with pretty extensive amount of recon and AT back there, already bringing out the Commandant and the Panzerwerfer for the Germans. More Pak-36 and 1 more sharpshooter moving on, reinforcing a few more positions for Molody or Shikon in the end. Quite not clear image. There's not a really clear image of how this match is being become, but there are more 60mm mortars for the French side and a 105mm howitzer trying to fire against a target. And while at the same time, the Germans are still bringing up a few more reinforcements, especially the AT, especially some more SS-Pioneer, to the second Panzerwerfer has already been taken on into the B phase already. We're seeing a few bleed-ins in terms of tickets for Avalser because of the central flag right now, and up into the 10th minute. You can see the Panzerwerfer did a few damage into the Bofors and the Commandant Legion, mostly suppression in the end. That was really good drop off from Shikon in the end. The SS Pioneer was dropping off unscathed, only a few suppression by the 37mm gun, and one more is trying to move in. This is going to be a good part of the counterattack into the town, or instead it will be going into the good forest up into the center. Oh well, this most likely being under the crossfire from BIMP in the end though. More reinforcement comes in for the French Commandos d'Afrique and the Canon 57mm Commandant Tirailleur is coming in with the one more squad of Commandos d'Afrique on the northern side of the map. The Shah M4A4 is coming in into the center. This is a B phase card of Shah M4A4 alongside with GMC carrying a squad of Legionnaires into the central part of the map. Down south, the German have reinforced a SD2 71 and the KM Inferior. Part of the 45mm are being scattered around. Scattered and taken out by the M3 Howitzer and BIMP. That is going to lose a flag to the French, however. But the attack ground isn't ending yet, and the flag isn't really secure for the French. This one is going back to the German hand. We're seeing more and more reinforcement coming in each and every minute right now. One more Bofors for the French, and in the center. In the center, there is a second Bofors to the center right now. No one Bofors down in the south, and no Bofors covering the northern side, partly the northern side of the map right now. However, the Germans are bringing in more SS Landsturm of Claire, SS Junker, and 2 squads of Feston Grenadier. This is going to be a pretty huge fight down in the middle going on, especially with the exchanging firepower between the infantry. Canon 57mm firing one shot at SS Junker, misses that one, and the second one did not hit the target in the end. 2 Panzerwerfer trying to fire at the most concentrated infantry area right there, only pinning down 1 squad of Legionnaires and partly pinning down the BIMP and the Commando d'Afrique. 1 squad of Festum Grenadier being taken out by the 57mm and is going to be retaliated by the IG-290. The second Panzerwerfer firing at the edge of the town. That is going to be an opportunity for the Germans to take back 1 more flag. This one is on the edge of the town in the end, but there is not a lot of aggression in the end, and Legionnaire still stands that ground. Commandant there bring up the extra efficiency and the extra flag and the extra front line that it should be doing. Crossfire of the beam, really effective against the SS Junker, and there's no HE shell for the Panzerjäger 35R in the end. It's going straightly against the MM8. It's going to be held by the FW190GA for extra suppression, but in the end, the M8 dude killing off that Panzerjäger right there with the M4A4, the one force to be reckoned with if the 35R is not ready to counter it. Talking about a counter though, Panzerjäger 35R were really effective, especially with the penetration and the HP it had, and also the rate of fire is really dangerous right there. But right now, the 90mm penetration is not really going to be enough against M4A4's 100mm of armor, and most likely be useful against T-34s, or at least against the M4A1, but not the M4A4 in the end. We shall see some more M10A1s coming in for the French, so the 35R will still be a pretty effective investment for the Germans, especially for von Tettor's deck Kampfgruppe. We're seeing a few more reinforcement coming in, never worth 40-300mm alongside with the multi-ammunition. This is probably the only one in his deck that had it, so this will be slightly more of a, well, huge unit that the German had that it really needs to be protected alongside with the multi-ammunition truck. And down the south, the Legionnaire already taken one flag, with the help of some more reinforcements and the long-range support of the M3 Howitzer, alongside with the 60mm mortar, which is running out of ammo, and Avalser probably not intended to supply those 60mm mortar in the end. They're more hit against the 290R and the SSMG, trying to move forward for a extra support that is going to be, well, happily taken by the M3 Howitzer. Panzerwerfer firing another round of 150mm that is going to hit the M3 Howitzer, most likely suppress it in the end, but not really doing any damage. No damage taken for the M3 Howitzer in the end. One more M3 Howitzer in the central side. I think I've also already lost one or two around here. We're still bringing more from it right now. The infantry are already being pushed back by more legionnaires in the area, and alongside with the help of M4A4s and more Commandant Tirelier from it. Right now this will be a pretty hefty firefight between the two forces right now. SSMG trying to stop it. The Legionnaires are really powerful, and the Shah M4A4 is also helping. That does not help the Germans in the end. Wolf 190 helping out this time. Legionnaire thus killing off all of the Legionnaires in the area. That is going to bring back one more flag for the Germans right now. It's still ahead of the French currently. 17 minutes and 40, about 50 seconds in right now. Few attack beacons were putting on the buffers that Avalser and the French had in the opposite area that is going against the Focke-Wulf 190 and the 219 around, and one ammunition truck is going to supply the mortars on the northern side first. The attack of the Stuart being taken out by Panzerschreck, 2 shots and 2 kills before the one's down. And this is still going to be a hard nut to crack for the French in the end, and most of the Legionnaires are still being suppressed currently. One more Panzerjäger 35 are firing the HE shell and forcing that MA to fall back. And we're going to see the Nebelwerfers aiming at the Bolfers. They hadn't moved yet, and they hadn't moved anywhere. Not just a not even a meter from the Bolfers, and Nebelwerfer just firing one rocket into the area, hoping that it would kill, but probably not. Open Blizzard munition moves in alongside with the Kettengrad carrying the 60mm mortar. Alongside with more Festangrandi and 35R up in the northern side. We're seeing quite a few of movements around in the central part, and down south things are being stable as well. Not a lot of movement except for more Legionnaires are trying to pushing in to the forest, and this time with more half-track and a few more M3 Howitzer. That is pretty much out of range for the IG-290. It's a safe, and German probably needs a stable AT platform that is not going to be killed by the M3 Howitzer outright. Just looking at it, this is going to be, well, not going to be easy in the end. For the Germans, however, the Landstorm of Claire throwing off the Molotov cocktail against the HTM-5A1 and a few more grenades against the half-track. SS Landstorm is still firing at the Legionnaire, already throwing the TNT that is going to kill the recon squad in the end. With a fire position order, that is going to be quite of a waste if it's no further orders from Avalser. That is FW-190 is going to kill off the HTM-5A1 half-track there, right there. Nebelwerfer firing the rest of his shell against the forward position inside the forest of the French. That is going to killing off the Commandant. That is going to kill off one squad of Legionnaire. The other one was fully suppressed, however. But another flag of the Germans are in danger right now. This is going to be a 14-10 for the French, however, but this is not a decisive moment already, as we're seeing a few more squads of Festung Grenadier trying to move into it as we step into the 1 minute into phase C. The Soviet remodified 88mm gun is coming in for the German side, and the 300mm Nebelwerfer is trying to redeploy itself. Panzerwerfer were resupplied and trying to fire at the targets, more likely against the Legionnaire inside forest. This is going to be a lot more complicated in the end right now. We're seeing one squad of Legionnaire being supported and deploying to the south. However, there is not a lot of armor down there going on. We have seen 2 Bofors, and you haven't seen 3 Bofors in the same flank of the map. The third Bofors into the central part of the map right there. One is partly covering the northern area. And for the AA situation of the Germans, no AA can be seen up in the northern part in the end. 7-1 is deploying to more of the central part of the town, and there's a 88mm that is also acting as a dual-purpose gun in the end. It's going to fire at the Howitzer, but it's also taking a few more damage from it. HE against the N3 Howitzer, that does take it off. So there's another Howitzer, 105mm being taken out for the Germans. And with the current situation of the Legionnaire, it's probably going to be one last squad that is holding on to this flank. With the Legionnaire up in the north, having a pretty good position right now is under heavy attack and heavy firepower from both Feldjäger and KN Führer. The multiple Bofors are doing their job against the Focke-Wulf 190 G8, and it's doing pretty fantastic in the end. Up in the northern side though, the edge of the town is being taken back by the Germans, but have been stale since then. Avalser trying to move in the far view part of the Legionnaire, some more half-track in the end, alongside with the M4A4 supporting that as well. It's not going to look good for the German forces out there. There's only a 35R around and no infantry to fight against Legionnaire Sapeur-Pionnier in the end. Alongside, well, there is also a more of a less of a veterancy improvement to make things worse for the Germans. Back into the central area, Nebelwerfer fired a few more shots into it. That's going to outright forcing the mortar and the GNC and also the Bofors to fall back, but not a lot of damage has done to them so far. It does move the situation back to a 13-11, a slight disadvantage for the German outside in the area, with Shikon commanding that. The SS Landsturm Orkler trying to move into the forest, being intercepted by Legionnaire and outright killing that off. But more of that Festung Grenadier Führer and Festung Grenadier are trying to take back the forest from the French rope in the end. More Begleitruppen and 2 more squads of Festung Grenadier alongside with the Feldjäger as the bulk of the infantry force for the German. That's going through. Legionnaire out there, the first one to respond, is firing at the SS Junker, but that's not going to be enough. BIM is also firing against the infantry forces. That is a huge blob out there. That is going to be a huge bombardment for the 60mm mortar. Will that be effective enough? The answer is the BIM is already there and cannot see the result of it, and not all of the infantry were being taken out and fully suppressed. And the Panzerjäger was rather rather undisrupted in the end. With the loss of a Festung-Führer, the Festung-Grenadier taking back the forest, that brings the flag back to a 13-11, with all of the Legionnaire down in the central forest dying in the end. Nebelwerfer comes in firing at the mortar, 60mm mortar, most of it where it is, and taking out one of them and forcing another one to fall back. The bulk of the force that the M4A4 was also not disappeared. The armors are gone, and most of the infantry are trying to hanging on to this flag. In the end, the southern Bofors forcing the Focke-Wulf 190 to back off and did not drop the bomb. More artillery closing in as Avalser bringing in the French, the American HM2 105mm artillery piece. In the end, it's going to be quite of a hefty punch against the 88mm that Beacon is bringing in even closer to the front line. More stuff has bringing in Legion Sapper Pioneer has shifted its way, and one of them is taken out by two squads of the Begleitruppen in the end. Festung-Grenadier trying to move in with the M3A3 IFM and Legion Sapper Pioneer being caught out in the open by SS Junker. It's going to be a small circlement that's going to take out the Legion Sapper Pioneer. The recon is mostly intact in the end. More likely that the Avalser into phase C will have a lot of Maquisards to work on. That's going to be the bulk of his infantry force around this time stamp, and it's going to be quite of a matter of numbers right there. 4 squads of Maquisards taking out a few more infantry squads and taking back the area from the German. They're not really starting to spread out though. 3 squads are moving into the area, crossing the open, and that's going to be going against the Festung-Grenadier. 2 squads of Maquisards and the M3A3 are trying to secure the town more firmly. That is going to fight around, and it won't be only the BIM that's covering the area. Caught out in the open, the Feldjäger and Festung-Grenadier Führer are pretty chunky squads that can withstand a lot of hits right there. But Führer is not going to withstand the Legionnaire firepower, and taken out by Feldjäger with the G43 scoped ones, sniper rifle in the end. The BIM was also pinned down by Festung-Grenadier Führer by the N2 double MG34 with the M3A3 trying to help, taken out by the Zug. It's not completely clear at the moment, but we're seeing the French being bogged down in the central area, being dragged out of the forest and taken out around these areas. The infantry are no more, and the AA are now the front line. Shah M10A1 RCA are pushing in, alongside with a few more Legionnaire inside half-track, and the Maquisards trying to filling up the gap, while the Festung-Grenadier Führer, the German infantry Begleitruppen, Feldjäger, are moving into the area and taking back a few more flags and more essentially, well, important position for the German to push in. Panzerwerfer moves in, Nebelwerfer fires at the more important area, forcing all the Maquisards inside the forest to fall back. Only the Maquisards in the town are alive right now. alive and pretty much unharmed right now. The Gladtruppen proves itself to be a pretty formidable forces, and taking a few more front line for the French to actually try to take care of. Maquisards and Legionnaire right now the ones that are closing in. 30 minutes into the game, we're seeing more Panzerwerfer still firing, unharmed, and already consuming 3 Overblitz munition truck. Pack 40 moves in as the additional AT solution. A Königsstiege Porsche already doing its damage down in the south and forcing the French troop to abandon the area entirely right now. There's nothing else that can stop it. There is not a lot of side shot chances for the French right now, unless they can do any damage down the south. But the exchange for the German, the Bon Tetor Kampfgruppe is really successful throughout all this time. The Panzerwerfer are alive all along, and there's not enough artillery for Avalser to respond to them. Königsstiege is still possessing a huge amount of presentation, and there's the Hellcat trying to move in, trying to fire a rocket against the Königsstiege. One of them did succeed, but it's most likely not going to be successful, while the second one succeeded with only the 37mm, the Flak 36 trying to stop it. It's pretty much not enough to stop the Hellcat from firing at it. Well, at least one of them is heavily damaged by the Flak and the 7-1 SDKZ. As we're moving into phase C about now. One more 88mm coming into the southern side of the map, with more Festung-Grenadier alongside the Begleittruppen and Feldjäger helping things out a little bit more than the Maquisards around the area. Under this exchange of firepower, the Maquisards had a slight advantage with being more rifles. In the end, there's no rifle for the Begleittruppen, only a rare machine gun. And Maquisards had quite a few 98Ks to work with alongside with the FM 2429. But more likely with the sheer amount of Festung-Grenadier, this will be more likely that the Germans will have an upper hand in the end. The Germans will force back. The flags are no more French at the moment. But the infantry force of the French are being drowned and completely suppressed by more and more of the firepower of the rockets, and also a huge amount of Festung-Grenadier up in the front. Marauder move in down the south, forcing most of the infantry to fall back, killing off the Feldjäger, killing off probably a squad of Festung-Grenadier. Kampfführer trying to move in, and 3 Howitzer comes, and this one kills off the 88mm AA gun, which in exchange, Chikon moves in another truck that is consisting of a Flak 37mm anti-air gun. More reinforcements are moving in. Not a lot of artillery we're bringing in. It needs a few more infantry to hold the line against German for the eventual movement. With more Begleittruppen and Panzergrenadier SG coming down in the northern side. FF5 Maquisards on themselves is not really going in with a huge bang and gone out. Maquisards still had their flame, taking 1 or 2 Begleittruppen out before it eventually dies. We see more likely that the infantry force of the French are being weared down to a point that cannot help out on any offensive movement for the French. But we're still seeing some 105mm firing at the target. Does help a little bit more for Avalser to hold on a little bit more longer as we're dragging into the 35th minute of the game. well, throughout both sides. This is going to be a much better foothold for the German, but however, we're seeing a few more RNG battle around here. Anti-Howitzer heat shell one-shotting the Stug in the end, and the Pack 40 is almost, well, if not being careful enough, it's going to be under the range of the M3 Howitzer. Probably not in the end, though. We're back to a more likely of a status quo down in the south at the moment, with some Grenadier trying to move in on its way. M4A4 and Stuck 3G exchanging their 75mm shells. With Focke-Wulf 190 as usual being forced back by the Bolfers. We do mind you that the 3 Bolfers into the central part, one of them is now in the northern side of the map. Marauder does drop 1 bomb before it being forced to fall back and eventually being shot down by the 7-1 or the 37mm. Hellcat moves in, fire a few shots off the Zug 3G, sacrifices in the end, did not killing off the target. Few more playing waste on the French side in the end. Where on the ground, the infantry still had slight advantage against them. Panzerwerfer firing another barrage against the Maquisards. That is going to pin down most of the troops down there. That is going to bring Shikon one more flag for the Germans this time. And more likely there will be a lot of skirmishes down here and there. Not a lot of combine arm can be seen around. 2 more Hellcat moves in, killing off the Stuck 3G, but there is a Königsstiege moves in right there, forcing the Maquisards to face the threat that it brings. The Hellcat, second Hellcat, is a little bit late, that's not falling back, it's still being fired at by the 37mm, survives in the end. That's going to be one of the last few assets that it can fire against the Königsstiege right there, down in the middle. B2 moves in, not a lot of AT against it. Cannon 57mm are pushing in. And it's most likely going to be enough to killing off the B2 if there's no infantry around. The Festung spotted that, but Cannon 57mm completes the job already. And now facing the firepower of the Festung and Begleitruppen, Super Begleitruppen in the end. Down in the central part of the area, 105mm does its job, forcing Festung to fall back, and the KMFU are having to be manually ordered to fall back. M4A4 moves in, trying to take on the Pack 40 by itself. It's going to be fired by Pack 40 and the Königsstiege in the end. That is going to outright kill it. The Pack 40 is already being spotted and still being fired at by the Maquisards with the FM2429 light machine gun. It's never worth it though, it's really much never worth it. To sacrifice a Sherman for the larger target this time. A few mismanagement down there for Avalser. The infantry force of the French are still being wear down to an extent that it's not really an effective movement for the FFI Maquisards to try and push forward and facing the KMFU all by itself. Albeit with the help of the 105mm that forced the KMFU to fall back, there's still a few more Begleitruppen and MG42 against it. Königsstiege right now frontally unbeatable. That is against the M3 Howitzer firing its cheat shell. Against that, that's one more M4A4 trying to move in a hope of side shot to no avail, however. While a few more FFI Maquisards move in, Festung Grenadier completely taking back the town, circled the area and even as long as it's pushing the flag onto the edge of the front line. Pushing the front line to taking one more flag from Avalser for quite a few seconds right now. 14 minutes into the game. At this moment, the Königsstiege finally kills off the 105mm Focke-Wulf 190 GA. Probably there's no use of them at all. Both of us in the area are securing the airspace, but both sides of airspace were pretty much secured, and not a lot of air power can be used from here from now on. Two more 105mm comes in for the central area. Right now, those one are firing at Königsstiege, which is standing still. But there's not a lot of radio around for the French to well utilize the usage and the power of the radio right now. More likely, the Germans had more radio than they were used to. In the end. But it does look like there's a lot more infantry for molody Shikon to use than the Avalser. He's sending out a few more, exactly three recon Stewards and 2 TDM-10A1s, one more to the central part of the area. That's going to be one more last hurrah for Avalser in the end, probably. The infantry force were drowned by the combined arms that the Kampfgruppe von Tetal could offer. And there's a lockdown against the Legionnaire and Legionnaires at Papierny from the 88mm and the Königsstiege. But Begleitruppen moves in, trying to pushing straight into FF5 Maquisard range, getting taken out, but pinned down one of the FF5 Maquisards in the end. There's a few more exchange been going on, Begleitruppen against another FF5 Maquisards in the forest. That's going to be a huge firefight between those two squads. As we're seeing down in the south, the Preston Grenadier pushing in, taking out the last few infantry units in the front line. As we were speaking, Marauder moves in, Seafire moves in, Hellcat moves in, trying to one more time against the Königsstiege and trying to stop the infantry movement from the German side. That does pin down a lot of infantry, but the Panzerjäger is largely unscathed and try right now going against M10A1. No, it backs off a bit more. Festung Grenadier taking now one more infantry. There is only 3 infantry squad, 2 if we're not counting the Commandant Legion. That is holding on the central town for the French right there, and the TDM-10A1 were straightly soloed by the Panzerjäger 35R with only 2 shots being fired and 2 hits and penetration. Up in the northern side, things are also not looking well for the Legions of Papierny against the Begleitruppen and against more experienced infantry forces. Panzergrenadier SG are also onto it at the moment, which Commandant there cannot provide a really effective support for the Legionnaires at Papierny. Up in the northern side, 3 and 3A03 RFM moves in. Right now there's no effective AA for the German. That is going to be a pack of a few more punch. But now in the central side, the overwhelming infantry force up into the central, that is almost going to seal the deal right now. Molody brings the game back. A little bit more ticking, a little bit more bleeding onto the Avalser's forces and their tickets. And this time, Molody or Shikon has fully taken advantage of the forces that he had, bringing the game back before 44 minutes into the game right now. And there is very little that the Avalser can do. The infantry force down south is also being completely overwhelmed by the Begleitruppen and Panzergrenadier HG right now. There's only one more Commandant there that is going to hold things off. One more FF5 Maquisards that is going to reinforce, but it's not going to drop at the most useful moment because those parts of the road are being sealed off by Königsstiege when time needed. 14-10 for Shikon and the Kampfgruppe von Tetal. One more Hellcat being dropped by the German anti-air that was going against the Stug probably. But right now, no usage at all. Reinforcement comes in, 2 more M10A1 and Legion Sapir Pioneer up into the central part of the map. Is going to do a few more damage, but there's huge lack of infantry for the French side. Bofors down to 1 man. 1 more Bofors are being taken out by the German infantry. Things going dire, and there's only 1 M4A4 and 2 M10A1s. No infantry are going to guard the town against the Panzergrenadier. 15-9 for the Germans. M10A1 up in the north goes in, but cannot take the flag, and Avalser surrenders after 45 minutes and 23 seconds of fighting. This is going to be a good amount of kills for Molody or Shikon in the end. 4,780 points worth of kill and 3,770 for Avalser. This is a nearly about 1,010 points of difference that is going to seal the deal, mostly down to the infantry pool. The early kills for HE219A0 were huge. That is taking out the 105mm and also taking out 1 more cast of the Spitfire LF Mark 8C that had a few bombs on its wings to actually bring a few more damage had it been survived for a little bit longer. But no, it's being taken out in the 2-minute mark. Other than that, good kills here and there. For the French, the M3 howitzer certainly racking up a large amount of kill in the early stage into the mid-game right there, with 6 kills, including an IG-290, including the Panzerjäger 35R, including an 88mm AA gun. 60mm mortar taking out 4 more units, including an SEK Z71. Another M3 howitzer 105mm taking out 10 units in the end, mostly HE kills on the 60mm mortar, 37mm gun, and also a Panzerschreck coming on. Legionnaires, less of an ideal position for the early games. The mid-game Legionnaire are doing excellent job, taking out 4 squads in 2 occasions. 3 occasions, sorry. Marauder are doing its job, but it's just not enough Marauders that can save the day before most of the AA for the German had come. Before that, it does take out quite a lot of Festung-Grenadier and Begleittruppen in the end, also taking out 1 Feldjäger squad in the mid-game. Maquisards are doing most of the job in the end, but there's just not enough, or maybe most of them were being taken out by the German combined forces that Shikon had bring for the game. M3 howitzer, another one that racks up 4 more kills, and most likely 1 or 2 around here and there. Hellcat doing a good job, but it's not going in time. Only taking out 1 Königstiger, and as Shikon bringing the second one, there is no way, there's not a lot of chance to taking out the Königstiger as the German anti-air net has been set up. For the losses side, for the kills for Kampfgruppe Bontetor, 37mm doing an excellent job with its HE shell and triple veterancy. This had roughly probably around 50% accuracy. It does take out a few more light armor that their regular shells are going to use as well, and they're going to be really useful as well. But let's not forget that these are a heat shell kills, so good RNG there for the Germans this time. HE219A0 probably comes out for a few occasions here and there, but the most iconic moment on this game is going to be the first few minutes, taking out the 105mm off-map flame and the Spitfire. Flammenpanzer B2 does take out a few armored vehicles down, the M3A3 and M8, and 2 more half-track. Other than that, this is a huge win for the Panzerwerfer in the end, taking out a lot of units, and also for the Nebelwerfer as well. Nebelwerfer only takes out a few units, 3 units to be told in total, but Panzerwerfer on the other hand does a lot of suppression damage, does a lot of damage to the French force in the end, this time grabbing up 4 kills by itself, probably with the help of some other units. 88mm, killing off not the planes, but most likely the ground units with this HE shell this time. And 3 Howitzer being taken down, Legionnaire being taken down, and of course a squad of Mucky Saws in the end. Stokji doing a decent job, even taking out a Canon 57mm by itself. Königsdieger, both of them had an immense amount of presentation this time, even though they are most likely not going to make itself worth most of the occasions. This one does come out to kill a few more units and does a job taking up bullets and shells and helping out this unit to move forward, anchoring the area, especially the open down in the mid-south area. Other than that, SDK has 7-1 as being the one as responsible for most of the French plane killed, alongside with the 37mm helping out as well. This time it take out a Marauder, 2 more AT Hellcat in the end. One more Königsdieger comes in, that does help out after the first one is down, taking out an M4A4 and the M3 Howitzer. The rest of them, well, the bulk of the infantry force, the glide troop and the Festung Grenadier were being put into use, instead of the more well-experienced and more spirited Panzer Grenadier SG this time. And just congrats to Molody or Shikon on taking this win against Avalser, and this is probably going to be the end of this cast. Well, hope you guys enjoying, and I wouldn't ask you to like and subscribe, but just a few more watch that would make me happy. Well, at least make sure if you like it, you can comment below, you can send your replays if you want it, and as always, not really as always, it's probably the first full cast on YouTube. But, well, we will see you guys soon. Good luck and have fun out there. This is YK, signing out.